This project was inspired by my love of all things rustic and industrial. Stick around and I'll show you how I made this wooden base and these chalk painted jars to create this beautiful centerpiece for spring. I found these really cute bottles at the dollar store. They are $3 each at my dollar store. And I thought they were so cute, and I love the detail on here. And I've decided I'm gonna go ahead and give them a coat of chalk paint, and then I'll give it a bit of a sand, and hopefully this detail will come out nice and clear. I also like the fact that the lids on these jars are ceramic, which is really kind of special as well. I'm going to be using Rust-Oleum chalk paint, and I'm just using a linen white here. And you'll need a brush. I'm just going to use a foam brush. I'm going to put on a couple coats, and that should be enough. And to prep the glass, I'm going to just be using a regular glass cleaner. You can probably use vinegar as well. I've never used that, but I've heard it works. But I'm just going to give them a clean with the glass cleaner and go ahead and start coating them. Okay, the bottles are all clean now, and I'm going to go ahead and start painting them. I've decided that rather than taking off the metal from the top, which you could do, you could just use needle nose pliers and sort of pry this open a little bit and take the wire off. But I've decided that I'm going to use the natural lip on the glass right here to be where I stop the paint, because I kind of like the look of the clear glass and the metal at the top. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to give it a second coat. Now that my paint is dry, I'm going to give this a little wet sand. So I'm just going to take a wet rag here, and I'm going to wipe off the paint on the high areas of the design, and this should help to highlight the cute raised design here. I'm going to go ahead and get started on this platform base for my display here. And the wood I'm using right here is a section of a 2x10 by 8 foot pine board. I just got this at Home Depot. And a little tip, I actually got a piece that was broken and in bad shape. And it had like a section on it that was big enough for this project. And because it was broken, I got an actual good deal on that. So you might want to think about that if you want to save a little bit of money and you're just using a small piece of a board. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and I'm going to distress this board a little bit. And I'm going to use a hammer and just some tools that I have on hand to gouge it and age it and distress it a bit. Once I do this, I'm going to sand this with my palm sander to take off the rough edges and the sharp bits. And I might give it a final sand with a smaller grit paper, maybe a 120 to 200, and just give it a final sand. I don't want to take off all of the distressing, but I do want us to make sure that we don't get splinters. So here we go. Okay, I'm liking how this is looking. The nice thing about putting some of these bumps and dents and gouges in the wood is that when I do some staining later, it'll give it some detail and it should show up nicely once it's stained. So now I'm going to take this out to my garage and use my palm sander because I don't want to bring the dust in the house. Okay, I've gone back in and I've done a little bit more distressing here. I didn't think it was quite enough. I've given it a sand. I've stained the bottom and sides, so now I'll finish the top. I want to make sure I get the stain into the distressed grooves and gouges. This will add a lot of detail and character to an otherwise ordinary piece of wood. So I'm finished staining and I've just done the one fairly light coat, but I made sure to soak into the little holes and divots and bumps that we've made so that they are more highlighted and stand out, and I'm happy with the results. Now that I'm finished staining, I thought I'd show you the product that I was using. It's a Varathane Classic Penetrating Wood Stain, and the color is Early American. If you're interested in this product, I will have a link included in the description below this video. I've allowed 24 hours for the stain to dry. I've given it a top coat already of this Varathane diamond wood finish, semi-gloss. It's a water-based top coat. If you're interested in this product or any of the others that I'm using in this video, I'll make sure to include a link so that you can find any of this. I wanted this piece to have a modern industrial style, so I'm using some gas piping, and the pieces that I'm using are 3/4 inch thickness by 2 inches in length for the leg pieces. And then the foot or bottom piece is actually, it's called a 3/4 black malleable iron cap. I refer to them as an end cap, but that's the actual name. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these together. You can actually just screw them on hand tight. They go on fairly easily. Probably want to wear gloves when you're using these because they have a black coating on them, so you'll want to clean them up. You could use some steel wool to clean them off as well, but you'll definitely want to use or have some gloves on to protect your hands because there are some sharp pieces. The measurement of the pipe, the 3/4, is actually the inside dimension of the pipe. The outside makes it a bit wider, so I'm using, when I'm drilling the holes for the legs, I'll be using a 1-inch spade bit. So that should allow for it. I've done some practicing on a scrap piece of wood, and it fit with the 3/4 inch pipe and the 1-inch bit. It actually fit quite snug, and I won't even have to use some glue for this. You could if you wanted to, but I won't in this particular case. I've already gone ahead and marked the positions for 3 of the legs. I've marked an X at 1.5 inches in from each corner. I have this last one to do, so I'll go ahead and make that mark, and then I'll start to drill for the legs. Now you'll also want to make sure that you're wearing safety glasses before you begin to do this, just to protect your eyes. Before I continue, I just want to show you that I've actually made a mark on my drill bit at 1 inch in depth. That's how far I want it to go down into the board. I don't want it to go any further because I don't want it to come through the top or the bottom end. This board is cut from a 2x10 by 8. So the 2-inch depth is really only 1.5 inches deep. So keep that in mind. That's why I've marked this at 1-inch depth. That gives me a good 1/2 inch extra for clearance. The last thing I have to do here is just screw these legs into the holes that I've drilled. They're a pretty tight fit. I'm just going to tighten them by hand though. And we can also adjust the height or the level of this once we turn it over. If it's a little too high in one spot, we can adjust it.